Chapter 5. Freeing Myself. An addiction is a programming or operating instruction to your biocomputer that triggers uncomfortable emotional responses and excites your consciousness if the world does not fit the programmed pattern in your mind. The identifying characteristic of any addiction is that if your desire is not fulfilled, you respond emotionally in a computer like way and automatically play out a program of anger, worry, anxiety, jealousy, fear, etc. That which you emotionally avoid is just as much an addiction as something that you desire. Now, the first pathway. I am freeing myself from security, sensation, and power addictions that make me try to forcefully control situations in my life and thus destroy my serenity and keep me from loving myself and others. Now, why do addictions destroy happiness? Are there some harmless addictions? Can't I have even one addiction? Aren't there good addictions like addictions for knowledge, for love, or consciousness growth? Of course, you can have one addiction or any number that you want. But what we need to realize is that for each one, you pay a price in lost happiness. Since an addiction is backed up by the full rush of your emotions, each addiction from time to time puts you in a state of emotional warfare with yourself and others. They dominate your consciousness and keep you from perceiving clearly. Addictions separate you from others, for everyone is instantly valued by the degree to which you suspect threat or support. Now, this is a really important statement, and if I were to observe my own thought patterns in the last few weeks or months and stuff, I can see clearly how my mind plays these tricks on me where I can see people from this point of view where they're in some sense I would perceive them as adding value to my life and in some sense diminishing value to my life, and thus rather than connecting at a deeper level, I would just see them as objects who are either threat or support to my desire system. And yeah, this is something that I could work on. Actually, there's everything that I can work on, which is why I'm reading this for myself anyways. Now, addictions are not needed because you can do the same thing and enjoy the same life experiences on a non-addictive basis. Now, through higher consciousness, you can have every beautiful experience that life offers you. All things in the world around us are constantly changing. Our bodies and minds are constantly changing. These changes moment by moment, month by month, year by year affect our ability to make the flow of our life conform to the arbitrary addictive patterns that we desire and expect. So we are caught in an absolutely endless moment to moment struggle to make the outside world fit in with our addictions. And it is always a futile struggle in the end. No one that has ever lived has ever had enough power, prestige, or knowledge to overcome the basic conditions of all life. You win some and you lose some. And the operation of our lower consciousness feelings is such that even if we satisfy many of the addictions during a day, the one or two addictions that were not satisfied will prey on your consciousness and make us unhappy. There is just no way to win the battle of our addictions. There are no addictions without unhappiness. Although with the higher addictions of love and consciousness growth, you experience less suffering than with the lower level addictions of security, sensation, and power. As long as you have addictions, your exquisite biocomputer, your mind, will be dominated by the vain attempt to help you find happiness by manipulating the world around you into fitting your addictions. A mind dominated by addictions is not able to tune in to the finer vibrations of the surrounding people and things. Just as a drummer who plays too loudly can keep you from hearing the violins and the flutes of a symphony, to be fully here and now, you must be able to experience all of the instruments of the symphony. To live in the beauty of higher consciousness, you must be able to perceive both the grosser and the more subtle aspects of the world around you. Addictions are not evil or bad. They just cost you too much in lost perceptiveness, wisdom, effectiveness, and happiness. Addictions always cause unhappiness, sooner or later. Preferences never do. When an addiction is not satisfied, you are unhappy. When an addiction is satisfied, you feel momentary pleasure, relief, or indifference. When a preference is not satisfied, you are simply indifferent. It was only a preference after all. And when it is satisfied, it adds to the texture and beauty of your life. Your ego and rational mind do not have to guard the source of your satisfaction because you are not depending on it for happiness. Upleveling all of your addictions to the status of preference or eliminating them if they cannot add to the joy of your life is a living love key to being joyous and loving all the time. A practical rule of thumb for one starting out on the road to higher consciousness is to grant oneself emotion-backed demands for physical necessities such as air, food if starving, or shelter if about to freeze, and regard all other addictions as sickness. Only your emotional programming determines whether something is an addiction or a preference. You must clearly understand that when we discuss giving up an addiction, we simply mean reprogramming that part of your brain that makes you restless, churning, and unhappy. If a desire is not realized, your living patterns may or may not be changed when you uplevel your addictions to preferences. It is vital that you fully understand that the growth we are describing lies wholly in reprogramming your automatic emotional programming. It's not necessarily aimed at changing your external actions. You can do anything that you prefer as long as you're not addicted. For when you're free of addictions, your actions will be characterized by wisdom and oneness. Now, some addictions are more costly in lost happiness than others. An addiction for having money in your bank may yield less satisfaction than an addiction for having a PhD. But both keep you in a constant state of threat, both dominate your consciousness, and both keep you from fully tuning into the beautiful spectrum of the world around you. And of course, you do not need to be addicted to money or knowledge in order to acquire them. You can prefer to have money and knowledge or anything else, and you will then and only then be able to totally enjoy whatever money and knowledge the river of life brings to you. Thus, it is not the external circumstances that constitute your addiction, it is only your inside emotional programming that must be changed. And the wonderful thing is that it is fully within your ability to do so. Whereas up to now, you have been hopelessly trying to manipulate the outside world to conform to your addictions, you will live in a peaceful world when you eliminate your addictions and thus spend your life making choices on a preference basis. Second pathway. I am discovering how my consciousness dominating addictions create my illusory version of the changing world of people and situations around me. Now we see things not as they are, but as we are. Every addiction distorts your effective processing on both conscious and unconscious levels. Now, there is an enormous flow of information that is continually flooding in through all of your sensory inputs. Every second, your biocomputer is receiving millions of electrochemical impulses from your sight, sound, touch, taste, and olfactory receptors, and the tissues and the organs within your body. For example, each hair on your body is connected to a nerve to your brain. All of your internal organs are continuously sending signals to your biocomputer, most of which are fortunately handled on an unconscious level. Now, the reticular activating system of your biocomputer is a network that selects whatever goes into your consciousness. It screens the data that it sends to your cerebral center, your master analyzer. Now, this network can close down your consciousness, it can put you to sleep, it can turn up your consciousness, and it can awaken you from your sleep. Now, this neural structure performs the function that is often referred to as the ego. Now, you can consciously pay full attention to only one thing at a time. Although your consciousness can switch back and forth with lightning rapidity, but it only focuses on one at a time. Now, how does your ego select what to pass on to your consciousness? It selects the information that is to go into your consciousness by following the programming that you have been putting into it since infancy. Thus, your programmed addictions determine your experience of the world, for they are guides that your ego uses to determine which data will be suppressed and which can go through into your consciousness and command your full attention. In this way, you gradually develop an illusory version of the people and things in your world. Based on the enormous domination of your consciousness by the things you are programmed to desire and that which you are programmed to fear. The more you live in your distorted version of the people and things around you, the more certain you feel that this is the only true picture of the world. Thus, you build up a warped picture of yourself and the people and situations in your world. For your mind is such that whatever it believes is true produces a feedback that continually reinforces and molds your perceptions. You should always be aware that your head creates your world. Your addiction patterns, your expectations, your desires, your attachments, your demands, your mental models dominate your perceptions of the people and things around you. It is only when you become free of your addictive programming that you can perceive how things really interact in your world. Now, coming to the third pathway, I welcome the opportunity, even if painful, that my minute-to-minute experience offers me to become aware of the addictions I must reprogram, to be liberated from my robot-like emotional patterns. I'm going to read that again. I welcome the opportunity that my minute-to-minute experience offers me to become aware of the addictions I must reprogram, to be liberated from my robot-like emotional patterns. Now, how do you spot your addictions? It's actually quite easy. You just notice the desires and expectations that you use to make yourself feel uptight in various life situations. By tuning into your minute-to-minute stream of consciousness, you discover the addictions that make you worried, anxious, resentful, uptight, afraid, angry, bored, etc. You thus use every uncomfortable emotion as an opportunity for consciousness growth. Now, this is a very phenomenal point. And for people, if you're able to reach this level, it's crazy, like how much of a transformation you experience in life at this point, which is that when you use every uncomfortable emotion as an opportunity for consciousness growth. You don't see it as a threat, you don't see it as a bad thing anymore, but you see it as an opportunity for growth. It's a phenomenal space to be in. Even though you may still be feeling emotional and uptight, you begin to get at the root of your ups and downs, your brief bits of pleasure and your long periods of unhappiness. And you begin to feel a deep satisfaction as you become more awakened and alive. In the past, you continually tried to find people who would minimally disturb your complex security, sensation, and power addictions. However, a person for whom you feel little attraction is probably your most helpful teacher in getting free of some of your addictions. You will grow fastest if you work on your addictions by experiencing someone that you usually would have excluded from your life. When you find that you can remain centered no matter what he or she does, you will know that you have reprogrammed the addictions that created that separation that you felt. And although you have continued the relationship for your own growth, you will have offered the other person valuable experiences that he or she can use for his or her rapid growth. When you have reprogrammed the addictions that separated you in your feelings, you may have developed a love and oneness that holds you together. Or you may prefer to spend this time in another way. And it may then be more productive of growth for you to follow your preference and then be with this individual less or not at all in the future. Everyone and everything around you is your teacher. This is another interesting statement, so I'm going to read it out again. Everyone and everything around you is your teacher. If your washing machine won't work, you are being checked on your ability to peacefully accept the unacceptable. If you are addicted to your appliances always working, you will suffer. If you prefer them to operate well, you will not compound your problem by superimposing your uncomfortable emotions on the here and now realities of repairing them. Your moment to moment stream of consciousness becomes interesting and real when you experience everything as a step in your growth towards higher consciousness. You will soon begin to feel peaceful and loving almost all of the time. This is your consciousness telling you that you're using the 12 pathways more skillfully. Just keep going, you're well on your way. End of chapter 5.